So we're out here once again at Big Valley. You know, I do a lot of videos out here just because it's kind of neat. I like it. So that's looking out at my piece. What I did today was relocated that survey monument and then put a T-bar fence post in. There was some rebar in there that I had put in surrounding the pin, the monument, before, but I had a surprisingly hard time refinding this today. There's another midpoint which you just can't see. There's another piece of T-bar fence post out there. It's all really wet out there. Oh my goodness. And then this, amazingly, is Dogfish Creek, and it goes around and then goes under the bridge there. It's a salmon stream. I mean, in spawning season, and it's getting to be spawning season, once it rains quite a bit, this will all just fill up. The salmon will run up here. It's just part of the whole thing. But I'm gonna kind of cover my tracks here. What happened here is the surveyor, when I had this surveyed, I've always had every piece of property I've ever owned surveyed. We'll talk about ownership shortly. So the surveyor actually put in the point at the wrong location. See if it'll focus down there. Come on. I know you can. Yes. Well, you was gonna. There we go. Okay. Yep. So this is all reed canary grass. It grows 7 feet tall during the summer. That there is the nasty neighbors. So the surveyor made an error, or as they say, a blunder. And the neighbor, actually knowing where the property is, because he grew up here, he doesn't live here, luckily. So I can come out and he's not here a lot of times. So the surveyor erred, and the nasty neighbor came up and just ripped it out through they had a piece of PVC pipe, threw it over in the meadow. It was, you know, just like, no, that's goddamn wrong. You're trying to take my property. Well, no, I wasn't. I just wanted to know where it was. So then the surveyor said, oops. Okay, so I said, you got to write me a letter, tell me what happened, and then I will pass that on to the nasty neighbor. And so we did that, and the surveyor reset the pin in the right place. And as compensation, sort of, he set a midpoint pin out in kind of the middle of BFE out there. So I'm smoking that Brebbia, which I like. It has a nice big bowl, and yet it's pretty compact. Kind of stays out of your way, but it holds enough to, like, I walked out through the wet, almost to the top of my muck boots, out to that midpoint. Took the metal detector out. It was beep, 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 beep. There it was. Yay. So, I had kind of remembered where that was. But anyway, the nasty neighbor tossed out all the monuments, so we kind of kept this one on the QT and kind of kept it discreet, and then kept the other one also out there so he wouldn't come out and tear them up. Of course, I called the sheriff. They didn't do a damn thing. Didn't even come out to look at it or take a picture or anything. That would have been slightly satisfying. Oh well. So I'm smoking some Balkan Supreme. Ivan Reese Balkan Supreme, which is Peter Stockby. So this is actually 58 acres out here, which sounds like a lot. Most of it is completely unusable. I got it really cheap. And so it's fulfilling its mission of kind of keeping me busy, giving me a little project, you know. So. Once again, once I'm outside working around, I just really like to have a pipe with me. That even when I'm alone. So that's just a very enjoyable part of pipe smoking for me. So land ownership, we call it land ownership. But you know, that, I guess we don't even own our bodies, right? I mean, you can't take it with you. They are of limited duration. Boy, do I know that. My back is killing me. And so what we do is we essentially have a long-term lease from the state. In the United States, it's the states that do that, unless you're on federal land, and then you'll have a lease from the feds. And states are just junior to the feds, counties are just junior to the state, so so we think we own it, and we take all this comfort and pride in ownership, but you know, really, come on. We're just caretakers of it. And like I say, we can't take it with us in whatever that next thing is. And so we pay taxes on it too, unless you're on federal land. And that's a whole different scenario. But yeah, so we pay taxes. Now this is in agriculture, and because it was a farm at one time, unbelievably. They ran cattle out here. The cows would get stuck in the mud, and they would have to come out and winch them out. Wow. But what that does is it makes for a low tax rate. So when I did the timber harvest, we did a clearing harvest, basically just to get rid of all the crappy wood, and it turned out there was some decent wood in there. Didn't think it would break even, but it did, and then a little bit. So that was good. Wasn't a huge project, and it was only 20 acres, so. And then I replanted in alder. So I at least broke even, and it paid for the road to go out there. So hey, all good. I learned a lot about timber harvesting. And some of my co-workers who review timber permits and harvest permits and wetland change permits and so forth had never done a forestry project from the get-go, from the start. And so I said to them, they're biologists, I said, hey, let's do an ideal timber harvest. I've got 20 acres out there I want to clear. It's very wet. So let's do, you know, optimal buffers and so forth. So we did that. We worked together, and they learned a lot. I learned a lot. They already had relationships with the state wildlife people, the state Department of Natural Resources that does the timber permits and forest practice application, it's called. And so that worked out just great. So yeah, we all learned a lot. And then I had a couple of grad students come out and do a few projects out here. I would like to do more of that, actually. Originally, I wanted to put a trail, like a public hiking trail, up the hillside. There's some county land that's in baseball fields up at the top there. And then there's a city over there. And so it would be a great way to get from there over to some more parkland over there. currently there really isn't a good way to do it. So that's, maybe that'll happen. Hopefully so. I have to admit this back thing has really slowed me down. And, you know, it slows you down physically, and then you're not as active, and then you aren't in as good shape, and it's just this toilet bowl swirl. And then your mental state kind of goes to hell too, you know. So I get it about people with disabilities and so forth. Yeah, it's underappreciated. So I pulled the SD card out of the game cam, so we'll see if there's anything interesting in the last month or so. Occasionally we'll see bears. Haven't seen a cougar. Did see a bobcat. A lot of coyotes. Raccoons, herons. We'll see. There might be some more bears if the salmon start really running here. But we've had a week of kind of nice clear weather. It's been delightful. Kind of cold, as it is here when it's clear. But, yeah, really nice. Really nice. Haven't heard the coyotes sing out here. So, yeah, land ownership. It gives you certain ability to do certain things on that property and to exclude others if you want. So that's, you know, can be useful. But ownership, yeah, right. Well, I think that's just a reflection of the fact that we don't really consider our own mortality ever. That's the big elephant in the room. And so once you do that, I think it expands things, and you don't just hold on tight to stuff as much. Some of the guys in the fire department have said they wanted to come out and shoot out here too. It's great. Big hillside, empty hillside back there as a backstop. It'd be perfect for that. So I'm hoping we can do that maybe this winter and into spring. Set up a little shooting range and have some fun out there doing that. I wanted to get the cops out here just because the nasty neighbor was such a problem. And do some tracking exercises and, you know, do some of that stuff that they like to do. But I haven't really enticed them over here yet. It's about 20 minutes from where I live. Yeah, so what do we really own? I was going to go over to Seattle on the ferry for breakfast on the bike. So I hopped on the Victory, got about a mile away, and it just, boo, died. You know, didn't even sputter. It just stopped running. The dash went dead. Just lifeless. So, you know, it's an electrical problem. So I rolled it down the hill to the bike mechanic that I use. He's a great guy. And he wasn't there this morning, but I left it there and came back and was going to try and diagnose it a little bit. And he was there, and so we talked a little bit. And there was a chance to reconnect with him. But it's an intermittent problem. So it's either in the ignition switch or a bad ground. It'd be a total bad ground. So I think I'm just going to have to go through it a little bit. That's where a heated garage would be really nice. So Todd asked if maybe the smoke keeps bears away. that's possible. I don't know. They can smell a lot better than we can. So maybe they think, what is that? A forest fire? It's an English mixture, so a Balkan, so it must smell like a campfire. So maybe it does keep it white. I don't know. Right about now, I'd almost expect to hear coyotes. So I'll hang out a little bit more and see if we can't hear them. When my back is better, I need to, after I have a little surgery, I'm going to have to get in that 20 acres and take a little chainsaw and clear out some of the maple sprouts, because they tend to grow faster than the alders. And yeah, they're just too aggressive. So it's the alders I'm trying to encourage. And they seem like they're doing great. So, yay. It's a beautiful evening. So needless to say, I didn't make it over to Seattle for breakfast. Oh well, yeah. It's been a good day. Got quite a bit done. I brought the DR mower out here, but you know, it's kind of slowed down, so I didn't need to do any mowing. I've wanted to do those fence posts out there and mark the survey monuments for a couple of years now, and I just never did it. So it's like, you know, sometimes it's like you put stuff off, and then suddenly it's like, oh, today's the day. It's the right day. and it's perfect, you know. I worried about it before. It's like, oh, I'm going to lose track of those survey monuments. They're going to just disappear into the murk and the mud and the reed canary grass. But everything kind of has its own time, you know, when the time is right. It gets done. Feels good. Yeah. So I'll finish this up, then head in. And very few mosquitoes. That's another good thing. Because this place, being so wet, it is like mosquito heaven. So there's 12 acres here that's still cleared from the original farm, and it's really wet. I've been thinking about blueberries, but they're require quite a bit of intensive maintenance, and of course the bears would be all over those, so you'd have to electrify fences or do something. Plus, they don't really like their feet in the water. They like to be up above the water a little bit. So there'd have to be quite a bit of work. I don't know. It's just something to think about. I need to get the county ag agent. What's that called? The county... no, I can't remember it now. The person who advises farms and animal matters, and the extension agent, that's it. The county extension. Why is it called that? I don't know. But get them out here and see if they have any ideas. It's too wet to put into hay. Western Washington's pretty harem-scarum on hay anyway, unless you have a really dry site. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe nothing. You know, taxes are like $100 a year on this 58 acres. So it makes it really easy. And that the whole idea of that is that taxes don't drive people off their property. And Washington was kind of an early adopter of a growth management act that kind of attempts to put people where the services, the sewer, the water, the roads, the sidewalks, the schools, kind of densify those areas and not suburbanify the countryside. So I like that. Yeah. So, anyway. Honestly, it's just a great place to come out and hang out. What a pretty sunset happened. So I can't share that a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Nice little 1/3 moon.